All right. If you're watching this video, hopefully you're trying to set up your gradebook through eSchool. So right now, I'm Kristen Gaynor. I have my eSchool pulled up so you can see my different classes for this trimester. The big thing you want to check right now is make sure that you're in run 1. So we're going to be showing you how you set up your gradebook for this first trimester. You'll have to do this again next trimester and then finally in the third trimester to make sure that your gradebook is set up properly in terms of IPRs as well as report cards. So the first thing you want to do is go up to this first tab where it says Gradebook, and you want to go down to where it says Setup. So you're just going to click on that. It's going to take you to this initial page. So right now you can see I have my classes chosen. As I go through, I'm going to have to do this for all the classes I have in my trimester. So if I wanted to change from my chemistry class to perhaps Honors General Science, I would click the Change button, in which case it would bring up all the classes that I currently have in T1. So this also applies if you have a teacher assistant in your room, which I do periods 1 and 3. You will have to set up a separate gradebook for them, just with one blank grade that you're probably going to give them, but that can be something that you have more specific. If you have any questions, just come ask me. You can see how I did it. Or if you'd like to ask Bill Probert, he can give you a hand with how you should go about grading your teacher assistants. But I'm just going to show a regular old class, Honors General Science A. Okay, so there's no teacher assistants, nothing crazy going on here, just a plain old class. So I'm going to click OK. And what will come up right now is what's basically shown on here when eSchool comes up. So when your gradebook or when your roster is populated, this will be what you see. The first thing you want to do is click this button right here where it says calculate average using total points. Okay. From there, you want to start adding some grading categories. So that's really dependent on how you like to grade your class. You can see that eSchool already has a whole bunch added on here. So if you want to do homework, lab, participation, projects, quizzes, tests, and then final exam, midterm, really it's whatever your preference is. You just have to make sure it's consistent and that you have it saved. So I'm going to choose classwork as my first grading category. And if you want to exclude the missing scores from the average, meaning if there's no grade in there, it doesn't count towards their average. You can also choose that those missing scores count as a 0. I personally like to do this, and if I want to put something in as missing, I use the code ANR, which means assignment not received. So I'm going to keep it as that. Again, that's your preference. And then I want to click that Submit Save button, that little floppy disk button right here. That's going to ensure that that grading category gets saved. I can go in and edit it later, delete it later, whatever, but I want to make sure I click that Save button so it stays there in my gradebook. So when I go in to add grades through the Entry button, I can add things in that classwork category. Now, I also want to add some additional things to that because I don't just use classwork as my grading category. So I'm going to go up here to this middle button in this toolbar where it says Add Categories and or Assignments. So I'm going to click that button. And what I'm going to add to it is maybe now a test grade. Okay. So I'm going to click that Save button. Can't forget that. And then again, it's going to be found there. It's saved. So now I can go into my gradebook. I can add a test grade and categorize it under tests. You would want to do this again for whatever of the grading categories you want. It's really up to you. I generally have 4 or 5. So that would be test, classwork, lab, homework, and then generally a final exam I'll put in as separate. Okay. But again, you don't have to do that. It really is just up to you. It also will start taking those options away from your list. So that way, like as I start to add more and more, you'll notice that when I click this Add Categories button, I now have fewer options here because I already have a bunch chosen. So right now, these are the 5 grading categories that I want to keep for my Honors General Science class. Again, my preference. There's no necessity to do it any certain way. And now that will be saved for this trimester. Okay. You'll have to do this again for every trimester, and you'll also want to do this for every class. So with co-taught classes, if you have something where you have a split roster for co-taught, what you would need to do is define these categories for both of those rosters. So you would have to do it for both of the sections in that singular co-taught class. So what I do is just I make a list of those things that I want to cover in those categories, and then I go through each of my rosters and just make sure that they match side to side, so that way there's no confusion from class to class. So if I wanted to, again, go to a different class, maybe now I'm ready to set up period 4s, I'll go to that, and I'll go through that same exact process where I'm adding those grades to it, or adding those grading categories to it. So I want to do classwork, I want to save, I want to add another one, I want to do test, I want to save. And I'm just going to do this real quick because I have to set up my gradebook as well, so you can kind of see how quick it ends up being once you kind of know what you're doing in here. I'm going to pick lab, save, and then final exam, save. And that's it. Now, just to show you, just to make sure you know that it's still going to be there, as long as you're clicking that save button on that side there, it's not going to go away. If you forget to click save and click the home button or go somewhere else on this screen, those grading categories will not save themselves. In addition, you really want to make sure that you click that calculate average points. Oh, I think my screencast ended. No.
I think you're.
Oh, nope, still going. Sorry. So it just went away. Sorry. I'm going to delete that part out. So if we go back to Honors General Science A, we go to period 5, you'll see that all of those categories are still found there. So if you have any questions or you're not quite sure what to do from here, or something's just not making sense to you and you'd rather just have someone show you, you can stop by my room, which is room 221. I'm down at the end of the science hallway. You can also stop by Tom Melhorn's room, and he is in room 28. So that's in the basement. That's going to be toward, like, if you make the corner in the basement, he's like we're as far away from each other as you could possibly get. So we're kind of at the 2 reaches of the building. But if you have any questions or aren't quite sure what to do, just let us know, and we can help you get this set up to make sure your grades go in properly. Thanks, and have a great day.